Good evening, everybody. I'm Lou Dobbs. The State Department today released a third round of some of the 55,000 Hillary Clinton emails from her private server. Today's document dump contains 37 emails that were retroactively classified. That's raised concerns that Clinton has jeopardized national security when she used her private server for her emails. She insists that's not the case, but the State Department apparently concerned that there's so much classified information on her personal computer that they've fallen behind in the scheduled release of her emails. We'll take up whether it's time for Hillary Clinton to face legal consequences for her email scandal. We'll be talking with Judge Alex Ferrer and attorney Rebecca Rose Woodland. Also here tonight, Republican presidential candidates preparing for next week's high-stakes Fox News debate, a debate that will be much ado about Donald Trump. The presidential frontrunner is absolutely dominating headlines, and mid-tier candidates find that the only way to grab headlines themselves is to bash Trump. We'll have a full report on the most anticipated event of this very early 2016 race for the White House. And a scathing new report tonight finds that despite billions of dollars spent and more than 10,000 radical Islamists killed, the Islamic State is no weaker than when the U.S.-led coalition started bombing them a year ago. We'll talk about the president's foreign policy folly in the Middle East with former UN Ambassador John Bolton here tonight. Our top story, the Hillary Clinton email release ordered by a federal judge. And the disclosure today, Mrs. Clinton put national security at risk when she used her private server. Today's release of 2,200 heavily redacted documents means the public now has access to just about 12% of the 55,000 pages that Clinton turned over to the State Department. But that's short of the 15% that a court ruled had to be released by now. The State Department is excusing itself and blaming the delay on extra scrutiny by U.S. intelligence agencies concerned about Clinton's possible compromise of classified information. To give you a sense of just how redacted some of these emails are, you're looking at an email with a former Clinton press secretary. It has the entire body of the email itself obscured. The only thing that we could read is the sign-off, which says, as you see there, "Hope this helps." I assure you, it doesn't, not in the least. The Clinton campaign, for its part, hopes to take some focus off these disclosures by releasing 8 years of Mrs. Clinton's tax returns and a letter from her doctor that attest she is fit to serve as president. Critics tonight questioning whether there is a double standard in the Obama administration's treatment of the former Secretary of State compared to the treatment of former CIA Director David Petraeus. Petraeus was prosecuted for mishandling classified information. The FBI even raided his home. But there's been no such raid on Mrs. Clinton or her home. Fox News Chief Intelligence Correspondent Catherine Herridge with our report.
Fox News has learned that classified emails on Mrs. Clinton's personal server contained information from as many as 5 intelligence agencies. Her lawyer, David Kendall, also has a backup copy of the emails on a thumb drive. On its face, this appears to be a violation of 18 U.S. Code 1924 that defines the unlawful removal and storage of classified information.
In most situations like this, you would expect that a warrant would be issued and the marshals or the feds, FBI, somebody would go and get that thumb drive and take it somewhere where it would be considered safe by the government.
According to the statute, an individual who, quote, knowingly removes such documents or materials without authority and with the intent to retain such documents or materials at an unauthorized location shall be fined under this title or imprisoned for not more than 1 year. Asked if the FBI would act to secure the server at Mrs. Clinton's New York home and recover the thumb drive, the Attorney General was non-committal.
The Inspectors General for the State Department and at least one other IG are reviewing how material was handled. We will review it as we review all referrals to us and take whatever steps are appropriate, if any, at the appropriate time.
But these court documents filed in the prosecution of former CIA Director David Petraeus strongly suggest a double standard in the application of the law is at play. The retired general was prosecuted for removing classified information in his personal notebooks, sharing it with his biographer who had a security clearance, and storing the notebooks at home rather than in a secure facility known as a SCIF. Quote, the FBI executed a court-authorized search warrant at the Petraeus residence and seized the black books from an unlocked desk drawer in the first-floor study of the Petraeus residence.
The crime of improperly storing classified information is actually a misdemeanor. What we don't know is what she did. Who was she emailing this information to?
The White House and State Department spokesman insisted there are no similarities between the cases, even though Petraeus and Clinton both held classified information at home in an unsecured way.
I'm just not going to speak, Lucas, to General Petraeus' case. It's just it's apples and oranges.
I wouldn't judge the decision that's being made about enforcing the law by the Department of Justice.
A source close to the intelligence community's Inspector General says they are increasingly confident, based on conversations with senior FBI executives, that the server and thumb drive will be physically secured or even recovered. Lou?
Catherine, thank you. Catherine Herridge. The biggest event in the 2016 race just 6 days away now. Fox News hosting the first Republican presidential debate next Thursday in Cleveland. A major test for all the candidates who have to find a way to break out of the crowded field and also confront a large unknown among them. Frontrunner Donald Trump himself. Fox News chief political correspondent Carl Cameron with our report.
Hillary Clinton told the National Urban League Conference in Florida that race is too often the root of America's inequality problems, and that while she'll fight for minorities, Republicans are organizing against them for 2016.
Political operatives are trying every trick in the book to prevent African Americans from voting.
Amid scare tactics and pandering typical for such an event, she singled out former Florida Governor Jeb Bush, elevating him to chief rival status, and tried to turn his campaign slogan against him.
You cannot seriously talk about the right to rise and support laws that deny the right to vote. I don't think you can credibly say that everyone has a right to rise and then say you're for phasing out Medicare or for repealing Obamacare.
Bush touted his reform record in Florida in contrast to Clinton and two of her Democratic rivals who also addressed the conference, Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders, a socialist, and former Maryland Governor Martin O'Malley. Bush said he'll close the opportunity gap with economic innovation, while Clinton and the left will waste more money, time, and human potential on social programs that in some cases have failed.
For a half a century, this nation has pursued a war on poverty and massive government programs funded with trillions of taxpayer dollars. This decades-long effort, while well-intentioned, has been a losing one.
The only black candidate running and only other Republican to address the Urban League, Ben Carson, said there will always be racism and urged minorities to reject victimhood and focus on job and opportunity creation for themselves.
We have the ability within the black community to do enormous things on our own. We don't have to wait for somebody else.
But Ohio Governor John Kasich was in New Hampshire suggesting minorities do need help, particularly education.
That's why we need choice. It's why we need vouchers. It's why we need accountability. Because I don't care who you are, if you get the tools, you're LeBron James.
In Iowa, Scott Walker downplayed his first appearance in a presidential debate next week, saying he sees little difference from what he faced running for office in Wisconsin, then lumped his 16 GOP rivals into two categories of inadequacy.
Some in the race are good fighters, but they have yet to win those fights. Others are good winners, but they have yet to take on the fights of late.
No doubt there will be plenty of fighting at next week's debate. Bush hailed the fact that Carson, a neurosurgeon, would be on stage.
I'm glad he'll make it into the top 10 for next week's debate. Before that thing's over, we might just need a doctor.
A frenzied and pretty crucial 6 more days ahead and counting. Lou?
Carl, thank you very much. Carl Cameron. We're coming right back. A lot more ahead. Stay with us. What she doesn't want you to see, Clinton's document dump, a third release of Clinton's server email. And California's drought worsens. And as it worsens, wildfires are raging. We'll be right back with that video from California.